Hey folks, welcome into the News 12 Now Desk. Thanks for joining us here. Nick Proto, Will Rioux here for you this morning, about 11 o'clock here on May 9th, Tuesday. And so if you saw the slate that just popped up there, you saw the push notification. We're talking again here about the Burke County Sheriff's Office. If you missed our conversation yesterday, that is up on our YouTube channel, on our website. Just kind of breaking down all of the latest information that we have. Will's done a couple I-Team pieces on this now, so just kind of bringing everything up to speed. And then as of last night, after that recording, we got some new information. So here we are again on Tuesday. That's the beauty of this News 12 Now Desk. It's live, so whenever we get new info, we can just pump it out for you guys. So let's not waste any time. Will, what is the new information that we found out last night?
Yeah, so what we know right now, we got some word that there was a new investigation. We reached out to the GBI to see what exactly was going on. We reached out to the normal public information officer that's over the Thompson region. He immediately forwarded me to Atlanta for the case, but what the GBI was able to tell me right now is that they have a limited preliminary inquiry open right now. I'm not exactly sure what that means. We asked for clarification yesterday, and they said that's all the information that we're able to give. We've asked them if this is criminal in nature. We've asked them if this information was forwarded to them by DA Jared Williams, and they weren't able to tell us any of that. We don't even know really what it's in reference to. They did say that it's over concerns and allegations, but again, they could not comment on what that meant as a whole.
Yeah, so, never heard of a preliminary inquiry.
A limited preliminary inquiry. Yeah,
I just Googled it here. It says the purpose of the inquiry is to determine whether, in the opinion of the officer, this is all legal jargon. Let me figure out if I can decipher this, and then I probably can't. But all right, so it's just to try to figure out whether the question or the conduct in question occurred, is kind of what they're talking about. And so, if so, whether there's enough evidence to say there was some sort of violation or some sort of...
Which makes sense.
Right, so that kind of goes into the next thing here is, what is this information that has been given to them from, and who did it come from?
Yeah, from what we understand right now, speaking with the county and a lot of people close to the situation, the county has been collecting all of this information over quite a long period of time, over the past year and a half or so, of all of the concerns and allegations involving the sheriff. Now, I was told by the county manager that all of that information that they had on the sheriff, the county commission authorized all of those issues, those concerns, to be forwarded to the proper authorities, being the GBI and the DA. So all that evidence that they had in these cases sent to the proper authorities. At that point, it's for the DA to decide whether he wants to bring the GBI into that. We do know we open records requested some information from the county. In some emails, we found that there was a conversation between the GBI and the county saying that the GBI was going to meet with the DA and see if they were going to move forward with that case. That was in February, early February when that happened. It was supposed to happen late January, but it got delayed from what we understand. And from what we know, it seems like the DA and the GBI have decided to move forward with this new investigation to see, from what this is telling us, to see if it's worth looking into further. So.
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong. Normally, the order of events is the DA gets the info and turns it to the GBI.
Yeah, to look into it and come back. It can come back to the DA as well.
Okay, so now, but in this case, Burke County sent their stuff to the GBI, who turned it into the DA.
Yeah, very strange. We've not really seen that before either. Again, just like I've never heard of a limited preliminary inquiry as well. I've never heard the GBI say that. So we have reached out to Alfonzo Williams, Sheriff Williams, and their PIO to get a statement on the matter to see what they have to say. We have not heard back yet, but still waiting to see where, I guess, what they have to say about this whole thing, or if we can get a statement. So
yeah, and in the latest interview you did with him, it was you guys kind of covered a little bit of everything here, going back to those training
the training records,
allegations, the training records, and that's kind of how this whole thing started. And now here we are. I feel like there's so many things we could get into. Like I don't even know what to ask you.
Yeah,
right now,
and that's the whole point. You know, if you watch our newscast tonight, we're going to do an entire timeline breakdown of all of this. I mean, I even have this here in front of me. I keep looking down. I mean, this is like all these documents that date all the way back to September, and even before that, when there was an independent audit done by Lanier, Deal, and Proctor. And I mean, we reported that back in October, and then when that got reported, this was about grant funds and the county or the sheriff's unauthorized credit card, according to these documents that we had brought up. And then, you know, shortly after we reported that the audits were done, the 53K started coming into question. I think like a week or two later, and then, you know, we didn't really hear about that, and then we heard about the training records first that was at the end of December, and then we found out about the 53K.
Right.
And then we kind of found out what the timeline was, and it was like boom, 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 and then now we're at a new GBI investigation.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that timeline a little bit because I don't know that we really laid it out concretely yesterday. And
I'll try my best as well.
I don't know that we'll be able to get the whole thing in there today, just because it is so many parts, like we said. But you know, we're tossing a lot of you know, words and phrases out there that we know, and if you've really followed along with this case, you know as well.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But in talking about the 53K and the credit card, you know, stuff, I think going into that a little bit more and just kind of giving people an idea of what exactly we're talking about, talking a little bit more full picture. So let's go back to this first one.
I believe
okay, wait, no, that's not the first one.
No, this should be the first one. July 11th is when this first one was done by this. So I mean, you go back. I guess this was 2022.
Almost a year now.
Yeah. So, I mean, you go back to 2022, and you have there were two audits that were done, one in July and then a follow-up in September. And basically, just to break down these sheets, it overlooked the sheriff's credit card spending and his dealings with a private company called Leaders Helping Leaders Network. You know, that's where the sheriff will go travel to places like Florida, which we've seen, Florida, Massachusetts, Boston, places like that, and go and teach these classes. And he'll also be a student. We've been told that he's getting paid to go and do that. He's using a county card to pay his expenses when he goes and does that as well. So it really brought up the question of whether he was double dipping, whether he was getting paid by Leaders Helping Leaders and getting that offset from county taxpayer or just taxpayer dollars. So that was what this was, and then it brought into question.
And that's a problem because he can't be acting outside his sheriff's duties and getting paid.
Yeah,
right?
Correct. The biggest question with that was, can a sheriff get paid outside of his sheriff duties? Now, he's argued that this is for law enforcement purposes, and it's for him to, I mean, he's the sheriff of Burke County wherever he goes, so when he goes and does that, you know, he's acting in his duties as the Burke County Sheriff and representing the county, so he's allowed to do it. And another thing with this back last year with this audit is that it brought up the question of how grant funds were being used. You know, we have the Vogel Safety Grant, a lot of money in that was awarded to the Sheriff's Office, and then you had the Waynesboro Housing Authority grant that was given to him. That was $50,000. It brought up a question of what that money was being used for, and we found, and according to this audit, found that a lot of this money was being used to pay for community events like turkey giveaways and toy drives. And while that's all great for the community and it supports the community and helps cut down on crime, according to the sheriff, those grants are supposed to be used for specific things like safety and for equipment and for law enforcement needs. But I mean, it's a real gray area because that could be a law enforcement need to cut down crime and to hold these things in the community. But there's been some arguments that that's not necessarily what's supposed to be happening. And the $50,000 housing grant, that's a federal grant to be used on housing and property and stuff and for law enforcement needs. And there's been arguments that that's not being used correctly. So it was just that's a lot of money to be thrown up in the air and not know what it's being used on or if it's being used for the right purposes. So that was what this entire audit was about. Another big thing with the audit, if you remember, that we reported on was that a lot of the receipts for his travel expenditures were not there, and he had to go and track all of those down. And still, there were affidavits in place of missing receipts even after he tracked all of those down for a lot of the media that were asking for it. And what they were used for. So there's still a lot of questions with that, and whether it was used property to really the letter of the law.
Right. So we had the audits here into the grant money. Did it find any wrongdoing? I mean, what,
Yeah,
I know the audits have been done, and then it's kind of like, okay, audits are done. Now what? Was there anything that came out of that?
No, not that we know of. There was really nothing done. And another big part was that you have the credit card. He had the credit card to go up and spend money on these expenditures. I mean, we found per guidelines for counties in Georgia that, and I believe Georgia law, I can't remember the exact code, says that, he has to go and get county approval to get a credit card and to open up that account, and he never did that, which was a huge argument because he was just putting all of that money on taxpayers. So
we have that audit, and then the next big thing is this $53,000.
Yeah.
So give us the background on this $53,000 separate from this grant fund audit.
And if you guys have been following, that one was the more recent one that we've done and uncovered when we were alerted by county officials. But the $53,000 is $53,871.31 of confiscated assets or seized monies that came under the former Sheriff Greg Corsi's watch. And those are just ongoing cases that haven't been resolved with the district attorney's office and in the court system in the CSRA. And that money was signed over to Alfonzo December 30th, 2016, when he took office in 2017. So that money then got signed over a month later, or got, given to the sheriff's office for law enforcement needs a month later. When that happens, that money is supposed to be sent over to the county auditor to be put into a certain fund so it can be budgeted for the sheriff's office budget, and then it can be used for law enforcement purposes, however they see fit, like equipment, salaries, stuff like that. That never happened. The county has no record of that money being turned over and audited, so they started asking questions. About a week after the county started asking questions to the sheriff's office, to the DA's office, that money was showed up at Southern Bank down there in Waynesboro. The exact money was put into the bank account. What we've uncovered yesterday, if you guys were listening, was that they were separate denominations. The amount of money, so it was 538 bills, however many $20 bills, however many $10 bills.
53800s.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And so that money didn't match what was in the denomination sheet or the asset sheet, because it was a very specific dollar amount. So that didn't match up.
Right. So at face value, it's like, great,
we
asked about the money,
yeah.
Here's the money. But when you look a little bit deeper into it,
where was the money for 6 years, and
Right.
is it the same money that was gone, or was that spent on something else? We have no idea. Obviously, those are questions that we asked the sheriff, and didn't really get a straight answer, just that it was in the safe the entire time.
And
that was never missing.
If I remember correctly, in that full interview, he turned around and said to you, why don't you go ask the county where it's been for the last 26 years?
Yeah.
What did he mean by that? I mean, is he...
He was alluding to the fact that the county never knew, or was never reported under Sheriff Corsi's tenure. So still a lot of questions with how far all that money goes back and whether it was logged and kept correctly as well.
Right.
So fair question as well.
Yeah. So now we have the $53,000 has made its way to the bank.
Yes.
So that is good. Whether it's the same money or not, that is left to be seen. But let's talk about now. We have two investigations.
So that was in October. Yes.
Yeah.
No. Those were, So we had the audit that was done in October, and
Right.
then a few weeks later, the questions about the $53K also in October. Then we fast forward. Obviously, our stories don't go in that order because
Right.
we didn't find out about it. But next one, trading records with GBI.
So now let's go up to December here, because a point to make is there are two investigations going on here. So we have.
I believe so. We have not been able to confirm
Okay.
whether all of this is connected to the training records, if it's just merged all into one, or what the situation is.
But we found out about these two separate entities that may be combined, maybe not. Still working to figure that out. The first one is about these training records with Gary Jenkins, who is Waynesboro
former
PD.
Waynesboro PD officer. there's still a lot with that as well. We still haven't gotten any answers. I believe it's going on week 13 of that investigation right now, with the GBI looking into the Waynesboro PD. Sheriff Williams obviously a part of that because he was the instructor, but basically what we know is that Gary Jenkins was alerted by his chief investigator that, hey, you need 2 classes before the new year, because they have to have a certain amount of hours before to stay certified and to be able to have their arrest power. He needed those 2 classes. Alfonzo had Gary Jenkins and Mary Bennett, who's one of the assistant coroners down there, had them at the sheriff's office take those 2 classes. We know that it was not inputted immediately. Gary Jenkins went to Alfonzo, said, hey, I need these hours, can you put them in for me? That was a few weeks later, and Alfonzo said he couldn't remember what day those classes were taught, and he put them in as the 29th because that's what he thought the date was. Obviously, we found that the phone records show that he wasn't even in Burke County during the time of those classes from 9 a.m. to noon, and then the only day it could have been was the 30th. So that's essentially what that was. And the GBI said that they were looking into irregularities in training records within the Waynesboro PD, but Alfonso part of that because he was the instructor.
Right, and then what was his reasoning for the missed date? I mean, if he put out this video on Facebook just basically saying
it was that's the only reason we found out that he said it was the 29th, was because, I mean, obviously Post records show, Georgia Post shows that it was the 29th because that's when it was inputted, but he just said that he couldn't remember and that it was a clerical issue. But again, we're on week 13 of a GBI investigation into that situation. What that means, we're not sure, but
it feels like a long time.
It feels like a long time for a clerical issue. Yes.
And I know he's been asked about that before. Is it as simple as him saying, "Oh, my bad, it was the 30th when I was in Augusta or when I was in Waynesboro"?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, we tried to ask him that during the interview. His response to that was, "Is that a budgetary question?" Because that's what we went down there to talk about. But I mean, we've been trying to get that question answered for 13 weeks since the investigation began, of what the actual date was that training happened. If it was the 29th, if it was the 30th, like it seems like it is, we have not been able to get that answered, except for that Facebook post that he put out.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, you can go to the Burke County Sheriff's Office Facebook. It's on there, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And
I think it was in February that came out. But again, once that happened, that GBI investigation started, the county was then authorized by county commissioners, or let me re-say that. The county commissioners authorized the county manager's office to send over all the information, all the records that they had of all these questions that are being asked over the past few months, and they're like, can you guys look into this? We think these are a lot of red flags here, and we want an investigation done. Yeah. So.
And
it's a light breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, it really, there's so much to it, and I know there's so much more kind of unconfirmed that we still, can't even really talk about, because it's all he said, she said at this point, until we get some real paperwork behind it, or some real facts behind it. But is there anything else that the county gave to the GBI that you know of that you're able to say, or that if there isn't anything more that they gave over that you know of?
All I know is that they gave a lot of just information to the GBI and to the DA's office. That's all I know.
And so in the interview that you did with Sheriff Williams, he talked about you having this predisposed, I don't remember exactly how he said it, predisposed something that basically he was doing something wrong. And how did he, I guess, what was his counter to that of like, I know he said, I'm transparent, right? I'm one of the most transparent people you ever meet. But was there any basis behind it? Was there any paperwork behind it? Or was it just kind of like, you got to trust me, you're coming in with some wrong facts, brother, and what I'm telling you is correct? Yeah,
I think that was the big problem in the interview that I saw. It was, and then when I watched it back, I kind of looked at it and was like, well, there were claims being made on both sides, but one side had documents and had paperwork to prove what was going on, and the other side didn't show me anything, even though you give them the opportunity to do it. I asked the sheriff 3 or 4 times during the interview, where was that money the whole time, and got one answer saying where it was, but there was no, oh, here it was.
Yeah.
It was right here the whole time.
Whereas when we talk about,
and there are things that we can still request. I got new information that there are logs that are kept of where that money was the whole time. They keep that within the sheriff's office, and they have a safe in there, and they log that. So that I don't know if that's something we can request. We may move on that to see what other information we can get. But I mean, it was just there was no. It was more like, I'm telling you what this is. You're wrong.
They're wrong.
Yes,
so you're not. You're not.
I'm just trying, and that was a big thing, is that we go in there, we're just trying to do our jobs, get answers for the community, get answers for you guys, and ask those questions. But I mean, we didn't even get to ask half of them because we were predisposed to thinking something.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't. You're just going off of, again.
A lot of coincidence, a lot of red flags, a lot of questions to ask that are fair questions that are being brought up.
I think at the end of the day, like you said, the county's coming to you and saying X, Y, and Z happened. Here is paperwork that said X, Y, and Z happened. You take that to the sheriff. The sheriff is saying X, Y, and Z didn't happen, but here's no paperwork to say X, Y, and Z didn't happen. I don't think that's predisposition that you're picking a side one way or the other. You're taking paperwork from point A and saying, here, this is what I have, and point B doesn't have any paperwork to give you back.
Or is unwilling to answer the questions.
Right. So
that's the frustrating part. I'm just trying to ask questions to get an answer, and then it almost got. If you watch the whole interview, and even after the interview, which obviously the camera stopped rolling, things get personal, or he thinks things get personal. I'm just trying to do my job. I don't have any. I'm not out to get him. I'm not out to do that. We want the facts. We want to get to the bottom of what's going on. This involves taxpayer dollars. It's the community. And he's a big part of the community. We know that. He's a staple down there. We respect that, and we're just trying to do our job to understand what's going on. That's why we're here.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point to make is, especially in the profession that we have, sometimes people think we have an agenda to go get somebody or, something like that.
We're predisposed.
Right.
We're not.
And it's not like that. It's just, you take questions that you hear from people and you try to get the answers. And if people don't give you the answers,
I think that's
a way of answering the question.
I do think a big part of what you see nowadays, we're not from here.
No.
So we don't have any connections. We don't have any ties. There's really no, I guess, for lack of a better word, loyalties for what we stand for. We're just trying to do the facts and get to the bottom of things and find the truth.
Yeah, and so, again, if you, we tried to get as intricate as we could with the details, but probably missed a few things just because we've heard the information so many times.
It gets in the weeds.
Yeah, there might be a hole or two that we left in all that information. So let's real quick pull up the website here. If you just go to our website, WRDW.com, take this down. All right, I-Team Investigates right here, top middle. All right, and you just click on this this first one with the sheriff on it. I believe, yeah. So you can see right here all of what we're looking at. So going back to your first story in, I don't remember when this was.
That's not even the first one either.
It's not? Is this the first one?
No, I mean, if you want to go back to the first one, it would be all the way in October, too, facing allegations of the credit card stuff and the audit as well. I mean, that stuff was back in October. But this is mainly the I-Team stuff that we started doing.
Right, and so here's, the couple I-Team pieces. And then this is the full interview with Alfonzo Williams. That's the one we've been referencing a lot today. And then we talked about this yesterday. And then this is your latest I-Team story. So if you want to get all caught up on everything, that's the best way to do it. We also have it on our YouTube channel, on our streaming channel, streaming app, which is on your Roku, your Fire Stick, and all
we've
that.
even got documents that we've open records requested and we put up there for you. Only a few of them because some of them we don't want to release just for sensitive information purposes. But yeah, there's some documents up there about the judge's order and some of the other things in the stories that we've done. So
yeah, and so there's still so much to come from this because we have at least one investigation right now, possibly two, depending if they separated these two. If this second one's even going to be an investigation, we don't know. But we've got, a lot that a lot of authority is looking into right now. And so obviously once we get that, we'll kind of, keep an ear to the ground. And once we get that, we'll be able to have an update for you guys. But that's kind of where we're at right now. Did we leave anything out?
I think we've covered all of it.
So if, again, be sure to check out YouTube streaming app. I keep wanting to say device, but streaming app on your favorite streaming device, Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, all the above. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So Will, we do appreciate the time again, and I'm sure we will be talking about this very soon.
I'm sure.
Again. And yeah, we'll keep you updated with anything we know. So with that being said, we got about 10 minutes left to do some good work here.
We didn't do good work?
No, we did.
Oh,
we did
okay,
some
just
good work,
making
but
sure.
we got 10 minutes to do more good work. So let's, while we're at it, let's talk about what you did yesterday.
Oh boy.
We're just going to change gears a little bit here. That was all the information you needed on the Burke County Sheriff's Office.
Tune that out.
We do have a good story here from yesterday as well. Completely different. So what we'll do is we'll play the story, and then we'll talk about this a little bit, kind of the format we normally do this. But we got to lighten it up a little bit. That's a lot of heavy information there, so we'll lighten it up a little bit and send you on your way. So the story is talking about the YMCA trying to combat hunger in the CSRA this summer. With school letting out, a lot of parents rely on those meals at the school that the kids get, those free meals. And so, what do they do now that summer's coming around? So that's kind of what this is about. So we'll roll this, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
Each one of these bags, packed up and sealed by volunteers at the YMCA, are helping to satisfy summertime hunger in the CSRA. 3,000 to 4,000 of these bags every day will help hungry kids while they're out of school.
We just feel very led to make sure that every child that's in a YMCA program, if they're out of school, is getting a healthy meal.
Katie McCauley, Chief Operating Officer with the Family Y of Greater Augusta, knows the day-to-day struggle for parents.
We see that everywhere. I mean, as a parent of 4 kids, the grocery bills have tripled, in the last few years. It's amazing to think that, the folks that we served before are in a greater need now.
The Family Y works with Golden Harvest, who are both seeing that greater need. Right now, Golden Harvest says 1 in 8 people in their 25-county service area are food insecure, including 1 in 5 children.
They're getting probably their breakfast, their lunch, and maybe even a snack during the day. And then when you remove them from that environment during the summer when the kids are out of school, they actually may not have access to any food or any healthy options.
Through their 20 or so locations, kids under 18 can come by, fill out a form to get a meal.
Just to see that impact on people in our backyard, there are kids, literally, this summer that aren't eating. And for Golden Harvest, for the Y to be able to step in and do our part, that's what we're here for.
In Augusta, Will Rioux on your side.
So there you go. And so, yeah, just following up on that, Will, one of the big things that we talked about in the past couple of years is the pandemic and the effect that that's had, where people who haven't needed help previously are starting to need help. And we saw it at Golden Harvest, we saw it at the Salvation Army, we saw it at Goodwill. Is that something that is kind of easing now that we're coming out of the pandemic, or are you still seeing a huge need?
The need is greater than ever. I mean, you heard Katie McCauley talk about it right there. She said the people, that needed it the most are in greater need now, or the families that they were seeing are in a greater need. So it never stops. You have inflation, the prices of groceries are going up, so these families are in desperate need. I talked to many of you guys may even know LaDonna, who's over at Golden Harvest Masters table, and she's the chief of the kitchen, stuff like that, talks to the community, she's out there. It's hard to miss her. And I talked to her 2 weeks ago, and she said, we're seeing more families now than we ever have. Full families, like parents and children coming in to get meals, lunch meals.
Which is kind of wild because, again, you think about, like I was saying, I remember the big catalyst behind people needing more was the pandemic, and now they're coming out of that. But we're seeing high inflation now, which is kind of becoming a big factor. If people want to help out, What's the easiest way to do it?
Yeah, the easiest way, I know the Golden Harvest has if people want to help out, or if they need to get help.
Well, either one. We'll start with want to help.
If you want to help, I mean, I know these websites, they need volunteers. So both these organizations need volunteers, the YMCA and Golden Harvest. I think that you can go to both of their websites and there's an option a volunteer option. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't gone to the YMCA's, but I know Golden Harvest, you can do that. And then if you guys need help, I know Golden Harvest Food, they do have a food locator and distribution thing that you can click on. Something like that. I'm trying to remember. And you can locate where to get food. And they say that, because they track the data on that, they said, and that has gone up a lot. I think, like, I can't remember the percentage because I didn't put it in the story, but the amount of people using that to find where they can get food has gone up significantly. And then the YMCA has their locations on their website as well.
Cool. Yeah.
And it's free for kids under 18. If you go to the YMCA, you can go to one of their locations, fill out a form, and get a free meal.
Yeah. So there you go. Especially with summer coming up again, I know a lot of parents rely on those free meals the schools give to help the kids out and help them out in turn. And so this is a good way to help out there with some of that need. So that'll do it. That'll get us to where we need to be. So again, folks, thanks for tuning in. Will, thanks for the time and all the insight there. Same stuff. Download streaming app, Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, WRDW. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, WRDW News 12. And then we've got all the latest stuff up on there. So if you want to watch this full interview that Will did with the people over the YMCA, feel free. And then over on the TV side of things at noon, Zaina and Tim will have the rest for you. Zaina is back. That's reason enough to tune in. So head on over to the TV side at noon.
No one's happier than you that she's back.
No one's happier than me that Zaina is back on the desk this morning. So thanks again for tuning in. We will see you back here tomorrow. Oh, we'll leave you with the interview and then maybe a little green jackets. How about that? We got a little tower cam there. All right, have a good one.
Bro, you ready? You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, I'll ask you an easy one. First and last name, spell both, and then your title for me.
Sure. Katie McCauley, C-A-T-I-E. Last name M-C-C-A-U-L-E-Y. And I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Family Y Greater Augusta.
Perfect. And can you just tell me a little bit about your summer meals program and what you guys do?
Sure. We started in about 2015 feeding kids in our programs. We just feel very led to make sure that every child that's in a YMCA program, if they're out of school, is getting a healthy meal. And so that's grown through the pandemic and through some grant funding. We've been able to expand that across our association.
How important is it for you guys to have this program to help some of these families in need over the summer?
Well, when you think about a child that's enrolled in an academic school, they're getting probably their breakfast, their lunch, and maybe even a snack during the day. And then when you remove them from that environment during the summer when the kids are out of school, they actually may not have access to any food or any healthy options. And so for the Y to be able to step in, make sure that kids are getting those healthy meals during the day is a vital role that we play in the community.
And tell me a little bit about these guys and gals. What are they doing here behind you?
So our staff team currently we use our corporate office. Throughout the pandemic, we actually used office space and transitioned that into our food distribution center. So these folks behind me are actually making meals, packing them up, and then distributing them, putting them on our vans and buses to go out into the communities to make sure the kids that we serve have a healthy meal.
Talk to me about some of the locations that you guys have that you serve.
Sure. We have, so we're talking specifically summer right now for this?
Yeah.
Okay. So how many is it going to be? 50?
We have 15 locations. We'll have 15 to 25 locations this summer.
15 to 25? Okay. All right, so the summer program will be delivering food to about 25 different locations across the CSRA.
And how does that work exactly? Like with the meals going there, how do kids and parents get that? Or is it just when they go to those camps? Or?
Well, we do feed any of the kids that are in our programs, but we're an open site. So any of our YMCAs that have our summer food program, anyone from the community can come with their kids. So any kids 18 and under can enjoy those foods. They just have to come, make sure they fill out the form, and then they're able to eat at the open site at our branches.
So they can just show up and sign a form and get it?
Yep.
Awesome.
Our
Go ahead, sorry.
Our branches also have a partnership with the Golden Harvest, and so each of our branches have a food pantry inside as well. So when you talk about, feeding the children, that's really important, but we've expanded that into adults and grandparents as well. They're able to come and get a bag that's shelf-stable food at any of our locations as well.
I know just 2 weeks ago, I'm sure that you know LaDonna over at Golden Harvest. I feel like everyone knows her, maybe. She was talking to me 2 weeks ago, and she was like, I've never seen more families, like whole families with parents and children coming into Golden Harvest. What does it mean to see that kind of need in our community?
We see that everywhere. I mean, as a parent of 4 kids, the grocery bills have tripled, in the last few years. It's amazing to think that, the folks that we served before are in a greater need now, because the need was great before the pandemic. And so just to see that impact on people in our backyard, there are kids, literally, this summer that aren't eating. And for Golden Harvest, for the Y to be able to step in and do our part, that's what we're here for.
Where does a lot of this food come from? How do you guys get it?
So we have grant funding that helps support pay. So we have different partnerships of food distribution, Golden Harvest being one of those partners.
Awesome. Do you guys know just about how many pounds of meal or how much food you guys will give out this summer?
This summer we'll probably give roughly 300, 400,000 meals.
Yeah, we'll do 3,000
meals a day.
4,000 meals a day.
Okay.
Wow.
I'll say that again.
Yeah.
So we'll do about 3,000 to 4,000 meals per day this summer.
You guys are staying busy.
Yes.
I think that's all the questions I have. Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
No, we couldn't do it without our volunteers and our donors. So a lot of this food is coming from people that felt led to give to Cheryl's Kitchen, our food program, and then a lot of the people behind me are volunteers as well.
Do you have any questions?
How do you feel personally about being able to be part of it?
Good. It's one of those programs, many of the programs that we do at the Y really make an impact, but when you put food in a child's hand, the difference that makes.
Can she mention the Golden Harvest mobile programs that we do in all the counties that we're in, except for South Carolina, I'd say all the Georgia counties? Just talk about how we go out into those communities, the housing authorities, where we know kids that we possibly serve during the pandemic still need food, and we do those all throughout the year, but we plan on keeping that up during
7 counties? 7 Georgia counties? 8 in Georgia? Okay. So we're excited this summer to be able to continue our mobile food program in 7 Georgia counties. This program is where we load the food up here, and then we're actually taking that into the communities where the kids are. Many of these kids we've fed throughout the pandemic, and so they recognize our staff when they drive up and beep the horn. So we're excited to be able to continue that on the Georgia side.
Yeah, and going to them is so important because transportation, everything like that, is access to it. Yeah. I think that's all I've got. Do you mind if we get some video of them packing up food and stuff? Yeah.
And there's also our